Go.
You good?
All right. Hey everybody, it's me, John, and I'm working on a Boilmaster today. This is one of the new models coming out this February, so hopefully I can treat you guys to seeing this model getting done up. So I started working on the Spirit Cauldron last week, and I got the flames at least somewhat coated. Oops, excuse me. So got these guys done, or mostly coated. I'm not 100% done with the. Excuse me. Shouldn't talk with a brush in my mouth. I got the Flameworks at least like base coated, but if you guys can see, there's a little bit of like touch-ups that I need to do, and I really want to push that glowing effect, which is going to require me coming back in with like some actual acrylic colors outside of the inks and glazes I was using to finish it up. So I might get to that today, but my main focus right now is getting this little jambalaya tossin' hooligan done. So I am through the basic skin tone, and I'm now working on doing the bone effects. As a Boilmaster, self-proclaimed Lord of the Pit, he has bedecked himself with lots and lots of bones. And so that's going to require a lot of work in terms of blocking in the bone color and then coming back with a wash and then picking up highlights after that. So come join me on this journey, won't you?
Hi, hey, that's like me.
So it's going to be a lot of touching up. I'm doing a mix of 2 parts jackbone to 1 part Adrian flesh, and I like this for a base bone color because it adds that like warmth to it. And then I get to kind of pull it back into that more neutral like bone color, but also have that like warmness underneath it. And so this model is like 90% not done, but resin, and he's only like a little bit metal. However, that 1 part metal I have, I keep chipping. It's a little tube of, it's going to be like this, but black. Okay. I have a paint-on primer that I fix little chips that I make as I'm painting, which is relatively frequent because I should use one of those little painting handles to prevent stuff like that, but I don't. So yeah, I'm going to keep working on this.
I don't see it.
Sure, it's around here somewhere. But yeah, I'm here in chat with you guys, so if you have any questions, please let me know. So yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'll hold the guy up a little bit closer. So, hopefully you guys see, I've gotten most of his skin tone done, and I'm just blocking in that bone color. I dotted the eyes, but I have not finished them. And then I've blocked in his cloth, which is my favorite color, sanguine base. So yeah, I'm going to get back to doing the bones. Boy, does he have a lot. So it's going to take a couple passes. I got through most of it, I'll be honest, and I 100% missed the cleaver, excuse me, because I wasn't thinking about it. I thought it was metal, like the rest of them. So, yeah. As always, I'd love to hear what you guys are working on. Any paint projects, any new models and such. I'm getting really tempted to start the new Manowar, or a Manowar army for Cauldron, because they just previewed a bunch of new models. And Manowars are steampunk Russians shoved inside of steam armor. So like they're basically oh man, I mean, it is a tough life for a man of war. But imagine living inside of a very tiny train. It's probably what man of wars have to go through on a daily basis.
I'm not saying your cancer's not taking however, your current aura is what, 11 inches?
So what colors are you going to be thinking about the new army?
So if I do Man of War again, I did it originally as 5th Border Legion,
Okay.
which is olive green with red accents. So like normally you don't see a lot of like green and red put next to each other, but since it's the Steampunk Russia's normal army color is red. And the 5th Border Legion is a shoot off of that. They have the little red accents with it. So it makes a really nice contrast in it, and it looks really cool. The catch, however, is I already have a green army with red accents in my Gators, because they're almost always this olive green tone that I've been doing with sanguine base cloth and clothing to them. So maybe I'll do something different, like the Sorshas, like all white. But we'll see. I would love to actually maybe just do traditional red. I haven't done like a predominantly red army in a good long time, and I have an airbrush. And airbrushing makes red real easy.
Why is that?
Red is just a complicated color to paint with. Simply because if you use white to highlight it, it turns pink.
Ah, yes.
And if you use yellow to highlight it and you're not careful about it,
turns orange.
yeah. So it becomes very difficult to find the right mixes and all that sort of stuff for painting red. But using the airbrush really kind of makes it a lot easier to blend
Okay.
that red colors, like those strong red colors, without having to dilute it, excuse me, too much with white or yellow.
Right. Now, when you do airbrush it, what techniques do you use? Do you use like a concurrent? Do you just spray a bit here, or do you do like a full-on spray?
So generally when I'm basing, like usually I've only used my airbrush to do like a base coat to the army, so like it would just be a wide general spray
Okay.
Across a model to get that like base red in, and then I would try to go in with a highlight within within still the red spectrum without going to that orange or pink, and it's a great way to get that highlight in there without doing too much. So yeah.
So now, when you do spray, do you do it outside, do you inside the workshop? Or?
No, I do it inside. I do have a respirator mask, so I recommend getting a similar setup if you are doing your own. I really do need that.
Primer?
Yeah.
See if I can find it.
See if it's all on the ground.
I've been maybe missing it in the pack.
Yeah. But yeah, I had it out before. It just probably got moved around. Oh, I found it, Joe.
Hey, behind the Coke bottle.
Yep.
Da. No.
So yeah, it's one of those things where I'm working with this stuff. I have a brush-on primer just for those like little nicks and things like that that I do. Because I find out if I don't put that primer back over the metal, it'll just keep chipping, and you'll always have that like exposed metal on there, no matter how much you try to not have it down.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So what do you suggest what did you discover that worked to? Is there a way to prevent that?
With metal models, not really. Like chipping's just going to happen.
Okay.
And I've done everything from like just painting over it to like even sanding down the areas. But I found the least intrusive way is just to get that like paint on primer, come in, hit that area again, make sure it's covered, and let the primer dry and come back and paint it the normal way. It's a little bit of a hassle, but it's much better than either stripping your model or like having to file down what you've painted before. So
Now, if you guys at home have any comments for John, please leave them in the comment section below. He'll be more than happy to answer them. So.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, that looks nice. Looks good. And I do like the detail work on that.
Oh, thanks.
All the knees right there. I enjoy
Yeah.
those.
Oh yeah. Generally, like when you're doing like other way, palms or knees or anything like that. I can hold this up here.
Yeah.
Remember your knees and such are going to. Sorry, camera will hopefully focus in a second.
Yeah.
Your knees are going to be a little bit more worn than other places. It's a place that the skin's going to be moving a lot, so elbows, knees, all that sort of stuff. So doing a little bit of extra detail work in there, if I have the opportunity to, I will, especially if I'm doing more human stuff, I'll come back with like a little bit of a red ink. So like it's a super, super thin down red, and so when I apply it over an area like that, it just gives it that little bit of warmth and a little bit of more wear and tear to it. So, yeah. Yeah.
So it's just like most of the.
Roughly around fall of 2016.
So I'm going to be working on a wash for this bone part. We're now getting to the point of, let me cover that paint on primer that I just put back on now. And I'm going to be putting this down. I'm going to be making a wash.
Also,
So a wash for
he ran up and
so making washes for bone and such like that, it's a little bit difficult, I would say, because you don't want to do something that's going to completely nullify what you were doing before. I don't know. I'm working on this wash, and I'm doing Thornwood Green, and I'm going to be using a little bit of brown ink as well. And a little bit of this like quick shade material from whatchamacallit, Army Painter. So make sure your base is nice and thin for a wash. A couple drops of brown ink. And we're going to come back with a little bit, a couple drops of quick shade medium. I always do quick shade medium or matte medium when I'm making either like new paints or washes, because I find that it helps retain the properties of the of the paint you're using. Generally, if I thin it with just water, I find that it dries kind of splotchy, and I definitely don't want that with any washes. So yeah, I got that made, and I'm going to be coming in and applying the wash. So I'm going to be targeting cracks and crevices a lot more than I am going to be the stuff sitting on the top layer. But a wash should naturally kind of find that. But I'm going to be constantly moving my brush around and making sure that, you know, it's not pulling or sitting on any areas I don't want it to be. So, yeah, you can see how it's moving towards the cracks and the crevices. It's going to be slightly tinting the bones to a little bit more brown, and we're going to be coming back with the jack bone to just brightening it up after that.
Now, of course, that's supposed to mean that bones are like will white, but they will rot, right?
Yeah. So this is just a step to add depth to it. This is not going to be what the finished product is, so it won't be anywhere near this dark when I'm done. But certain areas, I guess, will be. So, like, this is establishing the shadows. So I do the shadows now, and then I'm going to come back and do the highlights. And the highlights are going to be pretty extreme because, hey, it's going to be bleached bone. But I definitely want the bone to be this nice, rich color. And I'd much prefer going a little too dark in this step than coming in for the highlight step and finding out that there's not enough contrast. So also, the Thornwood green is, on the green side of things. Weird, right?
Yeah.
But the brown ink is definitely on the warm chestnut. So the color that I'm washing right now is really going to complement the sanguine-based robes that I have going on. And the warm brown shadows from this is really going to pull away from the cool green skin. So it's all about building contrast and being mindful about what you are doing or how you are applying these effects.
Okay.
So yeah, it's going to definitely push over to the brown, and it's going to be a slow build-up back to the white, but it'll have a really nice effect to it once it's done.
Nice, yeah, that's nice. Now, how much more do you have to go until you feel like this is completed? I mean,
I still have the ropes to do.
Okay.
And I still have like there's these little doodads kind of strayed around or put around, so he's got like little hands and vials and doodads because he's a boil master, and he's got to season things properly. So there's a lot of little stuff left to paint, but this is going to be the last kind of like big area that I'll have to do. And that's pretty exciting because like once you block in like all the super big area, the rest of the stuff becomes pretty easy to knock out. And so like as I'm applying this, it's always good to be mindful of what you could do to do better next time. And I think next time I would probably put a little bit more medium in or water to thin this down a little bit more. It's the color that I want, but not the opacity.
It's the color that I need, but not the one I want. It's the color that I deserve, but not the color I want right now.
Yes. But, it's nothing that I can't come back and pull back up. I always forget that the brown ink's really strong. But like I said, it is, since I've already kind of committed to it, it makes it much easier for me to continue this way and bring stuff back up.
I can see that.
But like I said, it'll take a couple minutes to dry, and as this is drying,
Yes, on the cupcake color.
yeah, I'm gonna work on that cupcake probably a little bit. And the wash should dry in not too long. He ran off the page. Especially since I've done a good job of pulling it around and making sure that it's sitting evenly on a lot of these parts.
Geez, it is drying quickly, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And as soon as that's done, I'm going to come back and start doing the highlights. So he's going to sit down here, and we got some cupcakes to work on.
Cupcakes.
Look on the bottom sheet. There should be like a bright yellow. Sorry, the one below that one. Should be a bright yellow. Nope. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Right. Is it right there?
No. This is a little different than I wanted to use, but this shall be absolutely fine. So as I mentioned before, I wanted to really kind of seal away this like glow effect. Hey, David. There should be yellow ink on the bottom page. On the bottom, it's going to be in a bottle like this. It should say yellow ink.
There you go.
Awesome.
He has a personal assistant now.
Yeah, it's nice. So I'm taking this little sulfuric yellow, and I'm going to be adding some yellow ink to it to kind of brighten it up and get to the consistency that I want.
Now, why the other ink?
The yellow ink is much more saturated, and it's
Okay.
also more of a glaze effect. So when I come in and I start painting it, it won't nearly be as strong as if it was just paint.
Okay.
And I am coming in towards the bottom to really kind of push this flame effect on the bottom side. And I'm also going to be putting it in the like cracks and crevices of the mouth on this cauldron in order to sell this like spirit effect. Yeah. So a lot of it is going to be setting it down and cooling and making sure that it is getting in the areas you want.
Beginning comments?
No, just people watching.
Okay.
Right now I got gators.
So yeah, it's
Okay. Still working on my IG Infinity for 40K. What this is Daniel?
yeah, Daniel DeBisque.
Yeah, what color are you, what colors did you choose to make that, army? Right, that's an army, right? IG Infinity?
Yeah. So IG Infantry.
Infantry, that's it.
Yeah. Imperial Guard is the full name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright. That's nice.
So yeah, like I said, I'm just dotting in these faces with this yellow. I'm gonna see if I can do a similar effect up to here. Hopefully not ruin it, but we'll figure it out.
Now, how much more do you have to go with this one?
So it's basically I'm gonna keep working on the flame effect to either I finish it to how I want, or more than likely I get sick and tired of working on it.
So you're not interested in, like, it's like it seems like the Gator one has like more detail than this one. Is that not more detail, but
Yeah, so there's definitely a bigger variety of what to paint on the actual Gator. But this one provides a cool effect because I don't have a lot of opportunity to paint flame effects and cool spirit effects like this. So this one gives me something new to do, while the Gator, the Boil Master who comes with this, gives me an opportunity to hone the skills that I've already taught myself. So yeah.
now you're gonna add any orange or red to the bottom, or just yellow?
Probably just yellow.
Okay.
just because orange or red will contrast with the green too much, and it might actually like dull out the green on it if I do something like that. And yes, Emily, these birds are surprisingly not birdy.
April slaves for 30K. Okay, nice. These birds have lack of good like qualities.
But on the plus side, they have plenty of gator leg qualities, which, you know, I personally enjoy.
Oh, did you tell people what shirt you got?
No, I haven't shown that off. David, in his infinite kindness, has gotten me a new T-shirt, and it's the cast of Star Trek as all T-Rexes, and it's called Star Treks, you know, T-R-E-X. It's amazing.
That's fun. That's probably going to be I can sit down, watch Star Trek, and put that on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, oh man, in the season finale of Discovery's this weekend.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
Someone's just disappointed.
Well, that's Emily. She's disappointed that I'm not working on more birds.
Is she a big fan of birds? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Emily likes birds as much as I like dinosaurs.
Oh, jeez. Wait a minute. But dinosaurs are known to have feathers, so it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, Emily also likes dinosaurs.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That shirt sounds awesome. Whoa, Simmons. Yep. It actually looks awesome. I wish we could sew it, but you know.
Yeah. Well, we unfortunately don't have the camera angle for that right now.
Not yet. Even we may. One day we may spare their expense.
Yeah. Today's not that day.
Didn't. Yeah, dinosaurs and feathers. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing some studies lately in terms of that. It's pretty cool what they've been able to figure out about what dinosaurs actually look like.
Now, how did they figure that out? How did they figure out feathers?
So a lot of times it's 50-50, like evidence and guesswork. Well, so like they're going to find stuff that looks, you know, whenever they make a new discovery, they're going to try to compare it against something that we already know about. And lo and behold, a lot of the stuff they discover about dinosaurs closely relates to birds.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where they're like, oh, hey, we just found this kind of like tailbone feather. And they're like, well, you know, this kind of bird has a similar thing. So they're able to draw some reasonable conclusions about it, so on and so forth.
That's right, because that's the scene with Jurassic Park in the beginning where Dr. Grant was talking about how the raptors, even the raptor meant bird of prey. So there was like, I'm guessing that they were already on this thing way.
Oh yeah. They knew about that like. Well, I think like late 80s is when they figured out like a lot of the correlation.
Yeah. And you were only finding out today. That's sad.
Yeah, well, so a lot of it has to be tested. So like they can have the theories, and it takes a while for the theories to turn into like popular, like, I don't know. So they have to figure it out, and then they have to figure out how it looks, and then they have to sell how that looks to a museum, and so on and so forth. So it's actually pretty interesting, the whole process.
So back to the gator, right?
Yeah, back to the gator. The wash should have dried, and now I'm going to be doing a mix of jackbone with a little bit of Menoth white base. And so it's probably going to be a 2-to-1 mixture of Menoth white base and jackbone. And I'm doing my best to keep this thin. Mostly because I don't want to destroy all the work that I've done with the wash. So make sure your paints are thin and realize that, like, hey, multiple coats just means a better looking model.
Now, I told you about this, but I saw on in mind that not only they come out with a Jurassic Park board game, but they're coming out with another dinosaur-themed board game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. From what I can gather, the Jurassic Park one is kind of this, I guess, 3 versus 1. I think it's either 4 players or 5 players. So basically, one player plays the dinosaurs, and the other players are playing the people trying to escape the dinosaurs. So the one player is trying just to catch them. It's like the 2-player Raptor, except for that without that 2-on-2 element.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then the other dinosaur one, it's not a Jurassic Park theme, but the entire idea is that it sounds like a Euro-style game.
Yeah.
Where you're basically, it's a worker placement where you put meeples on the board, gathering different resources like energy and like genes. And you put them in your personal board, and you're basically creating your own.
That sounds like Dinosaur Island.
Yeah, that's what I guess. I mean, I don't know. I haven't played Dinosaur Island, but so it's on Kickstarter. I think it got funded, or it is on its way to getting funded.
Nice.
Right now, so.
Yeah, I picked up Dinosaur Island a little bit ago, and it's a gorgeous game.
Now, what artwork do they use in that? Because I know it's a lot of pinks and a lot of blues.
Yeah, like it was very like late '80s, early '90s style artwork.
Okay.
It was pretty awesome.
Now, I wonder why they decided to go with that style of art.
It could be a lot of reasons. The main one being like whoever is making the game was like, yeah, that. It could also be a way to differentiate themselves from Jurassic Park, since their game is very close to that. So yeah, as of right now, I'm coming in with the highlights, and I'm being pretty light with them. And so what I'm doing is when I put a highlight on, I place it down, and then I'm dragging my brush to where I want the highlight most concentrated. And so what this does is it'll concentrate that pigment up to where the highlight is, which should naturally create a pretty neat looking highlight. The reason I lick my brush a lot, you can also like dab your brush on a like paper towel, but that's going to be to remove the excess paint, so when you're dragging your brush to the highlights or putting another one or another stroke down, you're not just constantly adding pigment to the model. So yeah, this is a long process, and it requires a fair amount of dexterity, but it is not beyond anyone working on miniatures. Like, you know, this is all required. Like, you can train yourself how to do all this stuff, because I did.
Yeah, it's like the statement, don't do this at home, and I'm like, but that's why I learned it.
Yeah. So please do this at home.
Yes, it's not dangerous to one's health. That I know of. It's not dangerous to one's health, is it?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. It's okay. It's good.
I'm going to take the safe stance and say don't lick your brushes, but besides that, you can do what I do. I just like licking my brushes because it lets my saliva keep the brush tip straight, which sounds terrible, but you know, hey, if it works, it works. And so I'm coming in and I'm picking up highlights, and I'm coming back in to reinforce some that I've made already. And I am okay with leaving certain areas still dark, which is an important part. One of the hard things that was one of the big skill testers for me working on miniatures is when to leave something alone. Like, you know, how much should I leave in shadow, and how much should I highlight, and how much should I fiddle. And a lot of it is going to be stuff that you're going to learn through a period of time working on this stuff. But it's a great sign when you can be like, oh hey, this is fine. This is fine on its own. Like I don't have to fiddle with it anymore.
Yeah, it also teaches good patience, doesn't it?
Yeah. So painting areas and leaving stuff this kind of rich, dark shadow.
Definitely don't ignore that cloud. It's fine. You have to start with 2 and so next week is
Knowing about anatomy as well can help out. Like I was talking about, like the elbows and things like that. Learning little things, little tricks like that is a great way to improve your painting by like little techniques that don't really like take anything to do, other than you knowing how to effectively apply it. So yeah, what my plan is these little like bone stalks he has shooting out of his back of his head is I am planning on leaving these all dark. So I've already done the groundwork for them being dark, so when I'm putting the highlights on these, I'm dragging them towards the central skull. So I don't have to worry about like coming back later and trying to make it, you know, dark again.
Now, when you are doing research, do you go online and just look at images online about it?
Yeah. Like, I will Google search, you know, elk skull or, you know, something like that, and figure out what kind of colors it is. And you can, like, I mean, the internet's a crazy thing, man. Like, you can Google, like, bleached elk skull in certain effects and find what you're looking for. Or you can even, like, Google search stuff about how certain weather will do certain things to certain bones. Like, if something's been sitting in a bog for a long time, it normally turns black.
Okay.
So, like, it wouldn't be out of the question if you had some black bones on a model. But that's kind of up to the aesthetic of the person. In my mind, you know, these are not something that he found in a little swamp pit, but something that he's freshly killed and brought up himself.
True. Something that he has took the time to prime himself into.
Yeah. So he, you know, is their boil master. He's the guy in charge of food and his culture, which is, for a gator man, if you don't know, a pretty big position.
So he's a glorified chef.
Yeah, he 100% is. But, like, it's not just, like, chef. Like, you know, he's the ceremonial chef. You know, like,
ceremonial.
So, like, you know, food in their culture is a big deal, and eating is a way to gain power, and he's the one who oversees that for his tribe.
Unlike the hobbits, who just eat because it's fun.
Yeah. Hobbits eat for relaxation, gators eat for power.
Yes. Power struggle with food, that's interesting.
Yeah, well, so in their culture, in the background, when you kill something and you eat it, you gain their power. And this isn't a, like, philosophical thing. It's very real in this world. So they'll bind the spirits of those that they've eaten to them in order to increase their own power.
Oh, jeez.
So if you ever get eaten by a Gatorman shaman, there's a good chance that your soul's going to be hanging around for him for the rest of eternity.
Until he dies and Gaiman dies? Or?
Yeah, or until he uses up the essence of your soul for magic hoodoo.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it's not a great time.
Yeah, it's not a great way to go. I mean, and once your soul gets eaten up, is that it?
No, he keeps you around. Like, he wants to eat as many people as possible, because all of those people's power get added to him.
Yeah.
So it's a terrible thing, but you know, to them that's just the way of life. It's very much eat or be eaten.
Because they do it with, could they just eat like one meal and leave my soul out of it?
I mean, probably, but you know, not likely.
Like, you just kind of let me live, let me know. It's like, just keep him in the ground, you know.
Yeah.
You can't do that. No.
I mean, like, I would think it would be a little bit hurtful if a Gatorman ate you and then didn't use your soul, because that means your soul was no good. Like, I don't know, Joe. Could you live with eternity being not chosen by
A Gatorman?
Yeah.
I think I'll get by it. I think I'll find a way.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't, which is what got you in that predicament in the first place.
So that aspect of it, I didn't survive, but the next
Yeah.
aspect, I may survive. Okay. I just don't want to be a journeyman.
Fair enough.
What's the decay rate of a stolen soul?
So it's not bad. Souls are pretty much souls have an infinite shelf life until used.
Oh, geez.
So, you know, and how the Gatormen do magic, it would probably take them a very long time to actually burn through your soul.
Wow.
Where there's another faction that uses souls as an energy source, and they'll like burn through a soul in a matter of hours.
Jeez.
So the thing with Gatormen is they will, you know, since they'll have multiple souls attached to them at any given time, you know, little by little they'll pick away at each one, right? Instead of using an entire soul at one get-go like Crix would. So your soul could probably last a very long time with Gatormen.
And that question was from Daniel D. Busk, I believe his name was.
Yep.
That's his name, yeah. Not very good. So,
you're fine.
but, all right.
You're the best assistant I've ever had.
Oh, that makes me feel happy. Do I get a raise?
Nope.
Do I get paid?
I mean, yeah, you'll get paid.
I get paid in souls.
Yeah, we'll get you some nice, tasty souls, Joe. How's that
I
sound?
don't know what to do. I wouldn't know what to do with them. It's like, hey, how's it going? You're doing good. I'll probably get like a meeting going, like, okay, how did you get here? It's like, how they always do.
How would you explain to you know, a date that you got paid in souls?
At that point, I'm like, you know what? No, I don't know.
Would you just kind of like gloss over that?
Yeah, I probably think I would. I think I'd be like, okay, you know what? I don't think I can continue this anymore. I just have to be honest with you. I got paid in souls. It's like, okay, this is nice. Nice to meet you. So, what was that? Soul effective magic is a question. from
Soul
Daniel.
efficient.
Soul efficient magic. Soul efficient magic. So,
Yep.
good. And Robert also says, can't wait to see this model with a finished base.
Oh yeah. He's gonna get all done up. Hopefully he'll be done for next week's stream. I got some nice little like cattails from like little train set stuff, so I can really like swamp up his base. So I'm looking forward to getting him all done up as well.
Okay, now what's that part you're working on right now?
So he's got like this like spinal column, like as back armor, which I
Okay.
think is really cool.
Alright.
And then he's also got these little skulls attached to his tail that I'm working on right now as well.
Okay, cool. So that's now is that so? Oh, like the Predator, but actually wearing
Yeah.
the this.
So they actually have a predator in this world called the Totem Hunter,
Okay.
and he runs around like joining battlefields that like there's a lot of like powerful enemies on, and he'll just like solo someone out and try to kill them and add their skull to his collection.
So he's a mercenary.
Yeah, he's a mercenary. Yep. And he's only after those he finds worthy enough to hunt. So once again, kind of flattering if he's after you, but also terrifying. So
It's fine. Did you hear about the new Predators movie coming out?
is it Predator or Predators?
I think it's the Predator.
Okay, cool.
So, I mean, they did have one coming out, I think, back in 2007.
Yeah.
Which I thought was better than Predator 2, and I actually bought.
Oh man, I love Predator 2, the one with Donald Glover.
Oh, you like that one?
Yeah, but then again, I really like Donald Glover. I think
Okay.
he's a good actor.
Yeah. Well, most people consider Predator 2 not to be as good as Predator 1.
No, well, as much as like Donald Glover, Arnold Schwarzenegger is also the man.
Oh yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger. How can he beat Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
He can't do it. No way. So, but I'm looking forward to it. I think the Predators had the guy who played. Who was that actor who played the pianist?
Adrian Brody.
Yeah. For some reason they got him, and for some reason he did kind of a soft Batman voice in that one. It was deep and growly. I'm like, really, this guy won an Oscar and he's not in this action movie?
Yeah.
And
I'm okay with a soft, growly Batman voice.
okay, I mean, okay. Well, have you seen Predators?
No, I have not.
Okay, well, I think it's good. I suggest Danny Glover.
Wasn't Lawrence Fishburne also in the new Predators movie?
He was. Yes, he was. Actually, yes. So, and also, I don't know what the other actor was. The one who played in Machete.
Oh, Trejo.
Yes. And then
Is it also Danny? Is it Danny Trejo?
maybe and also the guy, the kid from the Step 70 show.
Which one?
The lead one.
Okay,
I don't know.
Christopher something.
I think so. Yeah. So. Yeah, the other ones are in that one. So and some other people, but I thought it was good. I thought it did a good job of going back to the root of
The Predator.
yeah, Predator. So. Alright. But no, I'm looking because I think the new Predator movie is being directed by one of the guys who played in the original Predator movie. It's like Zach Black.
Okay,
Exactly.
that's kind of a cool bit of trivia.
Yeah, fun fact. I know. That's the fun. Oh my God. Also Trophy Grace. All right. Trophy Grace. Okay.
Topher Grace. That's
Topher
right.
Grace,
Yes.
Thank you, Daniel. So. Yeah, I'm not really good at names, but anyway. Oh, I see. So that's the fun fact of the day. So they're just doing some highlights and testing up.
Yeah. So I'm bringing all this bone stuff back to being bone,
Okay.
and so I'm dragging my brush across, finding all the raised edges, and bringing it back up to bone.
So what other models do you have waiting in the ring to paint?
So I have some croaked trappers, which are these delightful little frog guys. I'll show them off real quick. These are some of my favorite models, and I might be working on them next stream. But there's these little frogmen that have like these awesome nets and all that.
Hey.
And I'm gonna paint them. I have a frog at home. I'm gonna paint them like Emily's frog. So.
Now what's this one you have? Did you do this
Oh, that's
last
the
week?
bone shrine. No, I actually need. So I need to come back and actually finish that model.
Yeah, I'll show this off.
Yeah, because I basically started. I started with a wash for the bone, and I started blocking in some of the colors, and then I got distracted by all this like new hotness.
Okay.
So I need to come back and do a lot of work on it. It should actually be a pretty good stream for me to work on because there's a lot of touch-up work because I so hastily did the initial base coat.
That sounds like to have ADHD. It's like, oh, this is so cool. No, wait, this is cool. No, this is cool.
Yeah,
It's distracting.
I was never used to getting this many gator models at once.
Oh wow.
So like, it's pretty exciting to have all these new models, but it's also like really weird for me because I've never had to work on this quantity of new models before. So yeah, I am still blocking in these, or not blocking in, I'm adding these highlights to these little bone plates, and I'm bouncing around because I'm in the process, or I'm getting to the point where I've got majority. Whenever I feel like I'm getting close to the end of a particular step, I like to actually start moving around the model and double checking, making sure that everything is all done to how I want it to be done. So there's a lot of me hopping from area to area, double checking that I have in fact painted this to how I want it to be painted. So
Again, if you guys have any questions, please leave a comment below.
yeah.
Exciting. If you're curious about anything, so it's.
So yeah.
So what color did you get choose to do these frog guys?
So like my frog at home, they are, or he is a light tealish green.
Okay.
So I want to do that. I've so far painted every unit of frogs that I have in my army a different tone. So I kind of want to continue that with him. So these guys will be this nice kind of like teal bone kind of thing, or teal green, excuse me. Said bone because I'm working on this little bone cleaver.
Now I just had a thought in my mind. These guys, if these guys were lined up in a row away from battle, just imagine the camera panning over and one of them taking their tongue and just catching a fly with it, and just eating before they go into battle. That would be a good touch.
It would be. You know, like one of the things they haven't actually covered in the fluff or the background fiction is how long their tongues are.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we have no idea if they have like long tongues or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, is this inspired by kind of a bullfrog style?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think there's a lot of different frog species in there because it has the suckers on its hands like a tree frog. It's got you know, the big vocal sac like a bullfrog.
Don't ask that question.
Yeah.
Well, she.
All right, we have a question here.
No, I've been dating her for 6 years. I should know better.
Pale painters.
Yeah,
It's actually pretty frequent. There's a lot of people that are colorblind that come through here.
I actually have a friend who's colorblind, and he does painting too. And he basically just goes off of the point references of the.
Yeah, one of the nice things is a lot of times, one, since you can paint your models any way that you want, you can choose a scheme that you're able to visualize well. Or two, the other thing is majority of these armies will have very thought out paint guides to them.
Okay.
So you can easily be like, oh hey, like I need to buy these colors, even though I don't necessarily perceive them well, as long as I, you know, paint by numbers more or less, I'll be okay. But it's, I usually would say, pick an army that you can visualize well. Like, if you can't perceive red and green well, you don't have to paint your army that way. I know skin tones are a bit of an issue because of the amount of reds and greens in a human skin, but that's where I usually paint by numbers. But like can't see red and green, paint your army blue. Like, you know, that sort of thing. Do blues and purples or whatever color that you enjoy that you can see, kind of thing.
Now, do these companies make the models and the paint schemes with people, those types of in mind?
So I will say probably not. I would say they would keep it in mind as much as they necessarily
Can?
yeah, or how they are affected by that particular yeah, like, so like if you have someone on staff that's colorblind, they're obviously, that company is going to be more aware of the concerns of a colorblind community. Usually, you know, the bigger the company, the more popular game, they're going to be mindful of it, but in the end of the day, it's not something that everyone's going to take into consideration.
Okay.
Now, there's always, with these games, there's always schemes and colors and armies that will appeal to those people that have a limited spectrum. But yeah, I've never seen an entire game marketed, you know, towards people who are colorblind.
Now, do they have like color schemes that help? Or,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Or like techniques, like you said, the paint by the numbers. Do they come out with specific techniques to help?
Yeah, yeah. So, like, I mean, I would say that that's more for people in general than necessarily those who are affected by color blindness. But that being said,
I've almost bought into Age of Sigmar.
you know, like it's more of a general thing than necessarily targeting people with that specific.
Okay.
All right, guys. So I got the skulls blocked in with this mix of jackbone and Menoth white base. I'm now going to come in with a little bit of Menoth white highlight and a little bit of the previous mixture mixed in with it. And then I'll probably be pushing it to one more highlight after that.
Your skulls, you go 17 down to it's at 8.5 to 9.
So yeah, make sure your paints are thin while you're doing this. You never want a chunky highlight. And I'm moving to a smaller brush size for this. So always move the bone or the highlights to center mass or at the edges. Oh, excuse me, guys.
I mean, I like it.
Not denigrate them.
Yeah, I mean, I still would like to have like that cyclical army that I want to do. But if like possible to get started in this,
Yeah.
So now this what is this thing right here again?
The bone shrine?
Yeah, the bone shrine.
It is a so basically it is stones salvaged from a ancient temple
Okay.
that they have started making the Gatormen have started making ritual sacrifices on, and that empowers it with a bunch of dark magic and, you know, other people's souls.
Oh.
So, when that's the case, it allows Gatormen witch doctors and shamans and warlocks to channel their, you know, arcane energy through it.
Now, do they do this before battle? Or is it portable?
So it is placed down before a battle begins. So it is not something that they're dragging around on the field like the Spirit Cauldron, but
Okay.
something that must be placed ahead of time. So if they have knowledge of a battle coming up, you know, they might scout it out, make some sacrifices to the shrine, and then hope for the best.
Now in the world, in the like the game universe that these guys playing, why is that by fighting one?
They can be really good.
So for a lot of different reasons, each nation more or less has a reason to fight. The Gatormen, one of the reasons why I love them is the reason why they fight is that they want to propel their leader into godhood. And the only way for him to become a god was to fight enough, gain enough souls, and then have enough people believe in him that he is a god to turn him into one.
Okay.
So they fight for religion, more or less.
Okay.
And their religion is of that of Bloody Barnabas.
Like,
He was now the self-proclaimed Lord of Blood.
no, I guess that's how it works. It's like, I want to be a god. I need
Yeah.
people to believe me. Well, who are these people? You guys, come over here.
Yeah, so Barnabas led a crusade to subjugate all tribes of Gatormen under him.
Oh.
And then from there, he needed to run a campaign of war so bloody that he would gain so much dark magic from it that his body would naturally propel into godhood.
Now, does he have his own golden throne that he sits on?
Yeah. So he, in the, much like those bone shrines that we were talking about earlier, Barnabas has dismantled so many ancient temples that he has made an altar to himself that when he is not going to war, he sits upon and demands sacrifice from his believers.
Well, that's good. Just like in Warhammer, you had to kill 1,000 people. Not 1,000, but
1,000 psychers.
1,000 psychers. That's it. A day. So.
Yeah.
Alright.
So yeah. Are we about at that time?
We had like I think we have 1 minute left. So. But yeah, what about the time?
I know we started late, so we were gonna end a little bit later.
But is there anything before we wrap up? Is there anything else that you need?
Yeah, guys. Let me know, like in the comments or message us. Let me know if there's any techniques you want to have covered or anything that you want us to have talk about in any way.
Any comments? So.
Yeah.
Anyway. Until next time.
All right, guys.
All right.
Thanks for stopping by.
All right, bye.
See you next time. Goodbye. Goodbye now.
Hey, John.
Hey, me.
Next week, since I'm going to be in Canton, I can't be here actually asking you for questions.
Yeah.
Can you, since you were just saying covering stuff, can you possibly cover layering